is out of town tonight, so I will be chairing for this evening. So we are joined by Rob Nato, Jonathan Cohen, Suzanne Carmichael, myself, Andrea Folsom. We also have Superintendent Amy Doyle, our Business Administrator Laura Taylor, our Executive Assistant Extraordinaire Jody Condon, and then our student reps Lucy Beardmore and Kip Hudwest, and man behind the scene, Matt Stone. With that, let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So to begin, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve this evening. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the school board budget work session from October 16th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And is there a motion to accept the school board meeting minutes from November 6th, 2025?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And carries. Wonderful. With that, we are at our first public comment section of the evening. I think we are joined by some civic students. Yes? Yeah? Great. So we have 2 public comment portions for every meeting. The first one comes now. We have a second one towards the end of the meeting. We welcome you to come up. Say your name and address for the minutes, and then we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. So if you don't have anything to say now and you'd like to say it at the end, you're more than welcome to do so. Does anyone have any public comment? No? Great. All right, moving right along. Student comment. How's it going, guys?
I think it's going really well so far. Fall sports pretty much just wrapped out with a few exceptions that we'll hear about later. There's a lot of club activity going on right now. The SLED Club, student-led ethics discussion, had their first debate-style field trip to St. A's. This was just a practice one, but a lot of fun. 2 of our teams went undefeated in that. Additionally, there's math meets going on and other activities. And then since we have all the civic students here, there's also a big civics field trip coming up tomorrow. A mandatory one down to Boston, which I won't be attending until next semester, but about half the grade's going on that. And then Lucy?
Yeah, so as Kip said, fall sports are pretty much done. We had sports awards night last Thursday, which was successful. The teams go up and captains give speeches, athletes are recognized, things like that. So high school cross country, the girls team and a couple of boys are kind of still going. We have that overnight field trip to New York this Friday into Saturday. But for the most part, fall sports are done. Winter sports are starting. Some open gyms, open ice,
Open skates, yeah.
things like that. We've had a lot of community service around town. So the Interact Club helped out at Wood for Warmth, so at the wood bank behind the transfer station, and then also stacking wood at different homes around town. And then National Honor Society also helped out with the GOT Projects Fall Cleanup Day for elderly citizens around town. And then also with the Rotary Club, town Rotary group, and the Environmental Action Club yesterday worked together to do some bulbs out in front of the school and our sort of informational sign. They used our compost that we've collected for the Environmental Action Club and planted some bulbs in the sign that will grow in the spring. And then Granite State Challenge team. So we went to Plymouth High School and we took a 100-question qualifying test. So it's 35 teams from all over the state, and the top 16 teams go on to the into the actual bracket, and there will be televised episodes airing on PBS in March, and I think we're taping mid-January. So that's exciting. World Language Honor Society, we have our induction on Thursday evening. We had a rehearsal today during advisory, and then a meeting on Friday to go over some of the community service that group will be doing throughout the year. And then the last thing, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the junior class is doing a holiday greens fundraiser. So we're selling wreaths, poinsettias, things like that. There's been, the form has gone out to high school families, hoping to get that out to the younger two schools. But yeah, consider supporting the junior class.
Can you just send me that so I can put it on the website?
Yes, I can send it to you.
I was going to ask, can the community do that
Yes,
as well?
open to everyone.
Super. Great. Any questions for these two?
Very thorough.
A lot of information.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Great. Thank you, guys. Board comments. Nothing? Jonathan, anything?
Nope.
Stan? No? I would just say that I also went to the awards, the sports awards night, and it was wonderful. It was a multi-hour thing, but all of the speeches were really lovely. And Mr. Meserve shared some wonderful examples of just what it is to be a Hopkinton, not just student athlete, but just a Hopkinton student citizen, which were really touching. So it was a really nice event.
Yeah,
So
I was
thank you.
sad to miss that when I was at home sick, but I heard from Mr. Meserve about it, and then especially a lot about like how we had good examples and whatnot through his like mentor, like sports mentor club thing, which has a ton of participants in as well. So just another example, like Hopkinton students stepping up and taking on leadership roles and helping out in the community. So
Yeah, I think we have like 43% of the students participate just in the fall in the high school, which is impressive. So awesome. All right. So moving right along. So we've got some really exciting highlights tonight. Does it matter which ones we start with? We can just start. All right, we're going to start at the top then. So the first one, every year, we give out the Susan Pazinski Award, and that is actually an award, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that is chosen by the teachers and given to fellow teachers. And so we are really excited tonight to have our award winners from last year be here. And so we have Kate Sintros and Bonham Cough. So if you guys wanted to come up so that we can just say nice things about you. Come on down. And maybe if you want to talk a little bit about what you do or what you did at the school. And yeah, anything.
So I'm Kate Sintros. I teach at Hopkinton High School. I've been a teacher there since 2007. I teach in the social studies department, pretty much almost every class that I think has run in the past few years. Civics, American history, intro law, global issues, American history. I don't know, that's about it, but I've had a wonderful tenure here. I've been here since, like I said, 19 years, hopefully a few more to go.
Excellent.
I working at Harvard School as a special education teacher. My favorite part was really the behavior part as much as the other parts of it. For me, I started 23 years ago and was looking up to retire last year. Actually, I just flew in and just took a red eye this morning from Arizona. We did the Grand Canyon, all the parks on my bucket list. So
Wow.
yeah, so I feel a little better.
You're doing great.
Yeah. But no, it has been. It was great. Wonderful.
Well, that's wonderful. Excellent. Questions, comments from the board? I know I have some.
Well, I think Kate undersold her resume a little bit because beyond her teaching, she leads numerous clubs, peer leaders, has been a advisor to probably every class that's gone through in the last 8 years at some point in time.
And well,
Yeah. Right. If there's an initiative to be led at some point that involves kids getting involved, Kate's been the person for a long, long time, and we are truly blessed to have her.
Well, and what I just wanted to say about you both is that it's one thing to have like a board or students or, you know, whatever, give you an award, but to have your peers identify you, I feel is, you know, it says a lot. And I think both of you, you really capture, like you've captured the special education component, you've captured the teaching component, like the two of you together, I think really capture the heart of our school district. And you kind of like have you've captured all of our schools really. And so just, I wanted to thank you both so much. The impact that you've had on students throughout the years, dare I say decades, it's so impactful. And I think there are many things that we feel very grateful for here in Hopkinton, but at the end of the day, it really is our teachers that are what make us a really special place. And so I just wanted to thank you both so much for your care and dedication, because we literally would not be who we are without you. So well deserved.
It's a great
So. Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't get to run away. We have to take a picture with you.
Bad deal.
Run away, but we'll still take a picture with you.
Move up a little bit, and can you push in a little bit? Like, act like you know each other. There you go. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the whole you didn't take the rest. I just yeah.
No.
Worked out.
Oh, geez. Wow. All right. Amazing. So the other thing that makes us amazing, not just our teachers and staff, but our students. And so now we're going to talk to an amazing student. And I just moved the microphone, so we'll have to move it back. But yeah, Kip, could you move it back? So we also have super amazing New England cross-country champion, Maddie Lane. Come on down. So this is Hopkinton history here. First ever Hopkinton student to win the New England cross-country champions. I didn't realize until I got misty-eyed at the student awards that your mom also won the New Englands. And then she presented you with the award and we all stood for a standing ovation. And then I started crying. It was very touching. Also of note, Maddie got 2 standing ovations because she's awesome. So I know you probably are a little tired of talking about it, but can you talk about it one more time? About your amazing race, the quick lean at the end, the win. We'd like to hear everything.
It was kind of like a crazy experience for me. I went into it like not really knowing how things were gonna go. I had like a very open mind, and I was trying not to get like too worked up about it. But I wouldn't say like I was really expecting to win. I had like some goals of like top 3 and things like that, but it was kind of a surprise for me. I was just hoping to like run a good race and feel good on that day because I didn't run like my best performance the week before. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. I would say, I mean, it was probably like the best race I've ever had.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah,
Great.
it was really cool. And yeah, it was a little bit nerve wracking at the end, but I was happy to get the win. And I mean, I've been like competing a lot with the other girl, Alexis Paterna, throughout the season. So that has been really cool to be able to like compete against her, and I think it's really cool that we were able to like represent New Hampshire and New England in like such a big race like that. But yeah, it was pretty surreal, and it was just cool that like me and my mom both won, and we like have our trophies that are like both the same.
That's
It's like
so
the
cool.
same one, so that's pretty cool. but yeah, it's just been like a really cool experience, and it was really awesome. And like just having the whole team there was really fun. Also, like just makes it less stressful for me, but also just way more fun. So yeah, it was really cool.
I love that. That's great. Any questions, comments?
I have a question. More of an observation than a question, I guess. So I've gotten to watch you race a few times this year, and I think the thing that stands out is your composure when you're racing is not normal for what you see at the lead. You know, usually people are, well, they look like they're tired. You never look like you're tired. You always look like you're in control. And I'm just like, what is your thought process when you're running to have that kind of determination?
I mean, I just love running, and so it's kind of just like the thing that I'm the most passionate about. So like every time I go out and race, I just kind of try and think about like all the cool places that running takes me and like the people that I get to meet. So I try and just feel like lucky that I get to be out there and have those cool opportunities, and then also just kind of like know where I'm at like training wise, because I train a lot. Like it's a big thing that I do like all the time, and I work really hard in all my workouts to kind of get to the places I am. So I usually try and kind of put that all into perspective when I'm racing, because it really matters a lot to me. And so it's just kind of like an accumulation of all the things. So yeah.
What's the next step? What's the next goal?
Ooh.
If you got top 3, I mean, you won. So what's next?
Well, like Lucy said, we're going to Nike Regionals as a team in New York this weekend, so I'm hoping to qualify for nationals from there. But we'll see how it goes, because I know it's going to be a really tough field. So yeah, we'll see that. But I mean, it's all kind of just about the process for me. Like, I want to go to like a very good school to run, hopefully, and things like that. Just continue to progress. So yeah.
That's excellent. So at the very end, when you leaned, did you know you were going to need to lean to get in, or was it like you were just trying to get over the line?
I mean, I was pretty much running like as hard as I possibly could. So, and I knew that she was like right on me and like a little bit behind me. So when I crossed the line, I like kind of knew I won, but I was pretty like flustered, so I wasn't totally sure. But yeah.
That's great. I've always just wanted to ask an athlete who wins by a tenth of a second that question. So, well, it's very cool. Well, congratulations again. Any other? We're good? Excellent. Hey, and we're going to take a picture with you as well. So don't move.
Congratulations, Johnny.
We're definitely taking a picture with her. Hey, she's the one not to lead.
Yeah, professional now.
I'm going to put this on your seat.
You make it a little bit easier. Yeah, we are.
All right, squeeze it in. Come on. Oh, act like you don't know. All right, 3, 2, 1. I know, just come to all of you.
Fun part.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Yes. And you guys, you are welcome to stay, or Bonnie, if you want to go to sleep, you can. You do not need
Totally
to
understand.
Yeah.
stay for the full meeting. You've put in your years. And yeah, Kate, you don't have to stay either. You can just make your students stay. All right. So that was the fun part of the meeting. Now we get to the work part of the meeting, which is also fun. So next up, we have Mr. Kelly and Ms. Layton presenting our NEASC survey data summary, which is pretty great. I'm going to let you guys come up and...
Can you grab that corner?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. That's even better.
This is Kelly's corner. You see what I did there?
Great.
Nice alliteration.
It's real punny. Come on in, Miss Layton.
Nice to see you. I think this is your school board debut. Right?
Oh, is it?
It is, because she missed.
Oh, welcome, Ms. Layton. She's our new this year vice principal. She's killing it up there at the middle high school. Heard fab reviews.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right, take it away, guys.
So I think the last school board meeting I attended is when I gave an overview, a snapshot look at our beginning processes for the NEASC accreditation that we're embarking on over the next 2 years. And during that presentation, if you remember, I talked about the beginning of that process being the surveys that went out to faculty, students, and our families. So we collected those surveys and that data back from NEASC. They sent that to us. Where we are in our process of looking at this data and just our overall work is that in our November faculty meeting, the standards committees got together, started looking at the survey data and then all the evidence that our entire faculty gave for each one of those 5 standards that we talked about in our last meeting. And then Ms. Layton has been looking over these surveys. She put together this presentation, and I thought it was a great exercise for her being new. I remember when I came on board 21 years ago, we were at the very end of one of those, and Steve Chamberlain, the principal at the time, asked me to review that, and it just gave me a great insight to the culture, the climate, and the community of our school. So I thought it was a great opportunity for Ms. Layton to do the same. She's done a great job putting this presentation together, so I'm going to kind of turn this over to her. And that will be her show, and then my show is the program of studies, but we're both here to answer questions for both presentations. So
Perfect.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Layton.
All right. So in reviewing all the survey data, which there's quite a bit to unpack, I wanted to present tonight just some of the highlights for each standard. The data presented tonight represents the percentage of respondents selecting almost always or always to a question. I picked some of the questions where similar questions asked of the students, families, and the faculty, just to kind of gauge that difference between them. So under standard 1, when asked if there is respect for students from different backgrounds, there was very positive results, all above 85%. Feeling safe at school, and for parents, this is worded as, I feel like my child is safe at school. 100% of our faculty feel safe, 90% of our students, 97% of our families feel like our school is a safe place. And another important one is understanding or teaching that mistakes are part of learning, which is definitely true. So that was all very positive feedback. Under standard 2, talking about our clear vision for success, was also talked about the portrait of a learner as well. So very high percentages. Families was a little bit less. So that's something we can work on with communication and make that more well known. HMHS and teachers maintain high standards for our students. That was high across the board as well. The last one on this one, appropriate use of technology to support lessons. Parents were not asked this question, but students feel like they are using their technology in class appropriately to support their learning. Standard 3 has a lot to unpack, especially for the faculty results, but here are some of the highlights. Students are frequently asked to explain their thinking, so not just giving surface level answers, but going a little bit deeper. Students feel that teachers can explain difficult concepts clearly, was a high of 83%. Students have learning opportunities with community members or programs. Faculty responded to that question in particular with a 93. And not a typo, same percentage of faculty has works together with their departments to align curriculum. So overall, the highlights under standard 3 would be that there's strong student engagement and reasoning, clear alignment, and real life experiences. Standard 4 looks a lot at learning support. So I chose to look at counselor availability, nurse availability, library use, and special education support and services. Families were not asked about library use, which is why there's no for that. Overall, I think it's pretty clear to see that students, family, and faculty think we have terrific resources available across the board. Standard 5 looks at our learning resources and our building itself. So happy to say everyone, for the most part, thinks our building is clean and well maintained. There is access to materials for teachers and students to be able to learn and teach. And crisis preparedness. So students and faculty rated very highly, that they understand what to do in the event of an emergency, which is probably in part to our frequent drills. So kind of overall, I saw that stakeholders have strong confidence in our school environment. We have strong perception of rigor and expectations. Our support services were pretty highly rated. We have great strengths in respect, safety, support, and rigor. And our faculty was the consistently most positive response group. Any questions?
Yes. So on standard 2, I mean, obviously, there's some gaps between the student perception and the faculty's perception. Were there comments as a part of the survey so that we could get some sense as to what drove that gap, or?
There is, and it's a Likert scale. I thought the same thing when I was saying it would have been nice if there was just even a short, a small box to give a short comment, to be a little bit more specific. I actually gave that feedback back to Ms. Mitty, who is our liaison from NEASC, for something to consider.
Right.
As they're all, NEASC is always revising how they go through this process, but I wish there was a place for some comment, just to give us some narratives to read.
So my recollection of how NEASC is going to ultimately work is they will come in, they will look at these profiles, and then they're going to sit down with kids and with staff. So is there a step for us in between to get a sense as to why those gaps are there with our students as a preparation? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know that there's a process in place. What will happen is what we're doing right now is the faculty is reviewing all of this. They have not seen this presentation.
Right.
We're going to present it here, and I will share this presentation in Kelly's Corner for our faculty to take a look at. But I would see that this would allow us to have some talking points to start, and how do we close those gaps, look deeper into the data that was collected here, and just start asking ourselves some questions when we get ready to write the report. So there are reports that will go with every one of these standards, and we'll have to take a look at, why is it at, families at 70% around clear vision, or maintaining high standards is a little lower than where our faculty is. So it will create some conversations, but this is also a different process than what you and I have experienced in the past. So in the 2-day collaborative, it's a quick hit, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
When I did my 2-day collaborative, we didn't review the survey data. It was really for the faculty. What we reviewed as a reporting committee was the reports that had been written, and then we kind of went out and looked for evidence in our walkthroughs of classrooms or meeting with families and other stakeholders, and asking questions that kind of either confirmed or said, okay, well, we need to maybe make this a recommendation for them, to something for them to work on. And then we'll spend those 2 years after that visit next October, kind of working on those and addressing those, so that when they come back for that 4-day visit or 3-day visit, they come in on Sunday, but we don't have anything to do with them this time. And then we'll work on those recommendations at that point.
So the teachers that are assigned to that standard group will probably do some exploring as to why those gaps are there, so they can write their report with some exemplars in there.
Right, and they'll be looking at the evidence that the faculty has uploaded to those spreadsheets that I had talked about. So there were spreadsheets for each one of these standards, and on that first day in October, is that PD day that we had, was our evidence collection day on October the 10th. And every single faculty member that was present that day had the opportunity to upload evidence that supported any one of these standards. So it's been a pretty collaborative process and transparent. But that would be the goal of every one of those standard committees, to look at where are some of those deficiencies and how can we improve in those areas, and decide what it is that we'd like to work on next. And those would be things I would imagine that we'll take a look at as an admin council and as a whole faculty, and potentially work into our building goals and or see how they may fit with the strategic plan or with the school board goals. So we'll look for those alignments there, and obviously those will be conversations I'll have with Amy and her.
Thank you.
Any questions? I have a quick one. Can you guys just sort of remind us, and for folks in the room too, just briefly what NEASC is and why this is important?
Sure. So it's the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It is one of 6 accrediting bodies in the country. It is the largest accreditation because it's not just New England, it's also Europe. So it is now open to educators in New England to travel to Europe and do an accreditation, which I kind of kept in the back of my mind. You know, haven't been to Ireland yet. Time to go. I don't know. And so the importance of this is that you want a high school that is accredited by an outside association that comes in and does an in-depth study of what we're doing to make sure that we have clear visions, that we have curriculums that supply rigor and offer those opportunities for students to have success, that we have an environment that's inclusive, supportive, that we have nursing services, school counseling services, special education services that support all students. And because you don't want to graduate from school that's not accredited. The example that I give, when I went to Keene State for my undergrad, one of the gentlemen that I roomed with my freshman year graduated from Stevens High School, almost didn't get into Keene State because it wasn't an accredited high school, and that was where a lot of what we're still working through at the state level had started with the Claremont lawsuit. So that's important. You want to know that you're graduating and you're sending your student to an accredited institution, one that's accredited by our peers in the field, other practitioners, other superintendents, people that know their craft well. And this process, I think, is a little bit more comprehensive, not easier, but more comprehensive, but I think more thorough. You know, in the process that I went through in regards to just attending a 2-day, Liz Kovar is in a 4-day visit right now in a neighboring school district, so I look forward to talking with her about how that went, what that looked like, and what we should expect. But it's also something to hang our hat on, you know, to say that we are accredited. I'm looking forward to going through this process and looking back at, you know, some of the things that were suggested that we improve upon. A lot of those things we've talked about here is at a board, whether it's facilities and taking a look at our science labs, redesigning the 5th floor so we don't have an elevator going into the classroom, and all of the security pieces that we've had to implement over the years, from the bollards to the films on the windows to the cameras, and everything that Jim's been working on as the director of facilities, kind of just helps to give us a focus. You know, sometimes I think it's easy when you're in a building for as long as some of us have been to kind of just, we're on the train, right? I mean, and I work with Bill Crozier, he always talks about keeping the train on time, right? But to step back and say, okay, I thought we were really doing this well, but okay, but this is another area we can take a look at. So it's all about school improvement. How do we continue improving? How do we continue to get better? These are very encouraging numbers and feedback, I think, that if I went back and kind of compared to where we were 12 years ago, I think we're higher in these percentages. And that's a credit to the faculty that we've had and the support of the school board over the years and the community, and just adding things with additional clubs and like you heard Kip talk about, you know, just having the opportunity for students to participate in SLED. You know, that's something we didn't have until Mr. Callahan came on board, but that expanded an opportunity for kids to participate and feel like they belong to something outside of maybe sports or drama or some of those extra activities that we have. So I don't know if Kim has anything to add to that, but that's why I think it's important.
Thank you.
Chris, can I ask another question on Standard 2? Matt's going to do a presentation in a little bit about Chromebooks and funding and all the rest of it. pretty obvious, the appropriate use of technology. That's the only one where the faculty is saying that's pretty low. Is that around Chromebooks or is that around something else? Like, what's your gut on that?
That's a good question. I have not had a chance to have a follow-up with the faculty to ask, why would it be at 75%? What would you like to see in regards to the use of technology? It could be because they see students using it inappropriately. That may be one area. Or just other available means to technology to utilize in the classroom. So I think it could go down a couple different paths, but I haven't had, honestly, Rob, I haven't had that conversation with that council.
Thanks.
Other questions? No? I think the only other one that jumped out at me was the crisis preparedness. Just that the families were only at 72%. I'm thrilled that the faculty and students are pretty high. I think it's really important for them to be quite high and knowing what to do if there's a crisis. It just seems like maybe the families just don't know how prepared our faculty and students are.
Can I add something? When we went through this in my previous district, that was similar. And it is interesting, you don't share your crisis intervention policy.
Right, yeah.
So it sort of makes sense that they wouldn't know all the ins or outs because you really have to be careful about, sharing that publicly. You don't send out information about what you do in any number of things. Students know. They also know to listen to the adult in the classroom. So that was similar, and I know that Kim has been other places as well, and so I would just be curious if that was, you found that as well.
Yeah, you definitely can't share those plans ahead of time with parents and the community. That sounds like a counterproductive choice. So that data point did kind of make sense to me. In fact, I kind of thought it was high.
Oh,
So
interesting.
the students must be communicating with home after we do drills, and they are sharing some information with their families.
Yeah, I think I would echo that. I think when I was looking at this and I was like, if we had about 50%, I'd be like, okay, we're doing all right, but when it came in where it did, we're doing better.
Yeah.
What we do, as she mentioned, we do a lot of drills. We push those dates out ahead of time, try to adhere to those as best we can. Sometimes district schedules don't allow us to run them when we do, but that calendar that we put out keeps us, on task to get them done. I think our faculty at the beginning of the year, we have a presentation that developed, and we give them and they share it with the students, and they talk about what avoid denied offend is. We have the posters up. Rob has talked about see something, say something. I think we over the years we've had situations where students have brought attention to us if they thought another friend of theirs was, struggling and needed, because it's not just about school violence. When I think about crisis, what about that student who's maybe talking about self-harm, and how do we respond to that? Not all those families would know about those protocols that our school counselors work through, including school administration or school psychologists, to kind of go through and supporting those students in crisis. I think when we hear crisis, we're thinking about what we hear in the news all the time. But we have students in crisis. It may be that they lost a family member unexpectedly. So there's different types of crises that schools deal with on a daily basis.
I do recognize, I just want to chime in that those are, some of those things are privileged plans. And I remember having a student go through and being alerted that there will be a drill or there will be, sort of the vague awareness. But I'm wondering if part of the communication piece is just more iterations of there is a plan. We cannot share the plan with you, but your students have been trained on what to do in case of this, or they have been trained in just more reminders to the community, because I think being a parent in this day and age of a student, and especially I know like the no phones and some of that has caused some anxiety from parents. So just letting people know that there is a plan. We just can't tell you all of the pieces of said plan.
And in the last several years, we put flip charts in every classroom.
Yeah.
Really.
And your data tells you that the faculty feel pretty good about it and the students feel pretty good. It's the parents who can't, but you can tell them, like, rest assured, we have these things in play.
And I was pleased to see that number for the faculty, because when we first started implementing the avoid, deny, defend process, the avoiding part
Comes
is
naturally.
anxious. It made them anxious. Well, what do you mean leave the building? Well, where do we go? I don't care. Get away from the building. And I said, we will find you later. We will figure this out. And and that's not how we're trained as teachers.
Yeah.
We're structured people. With our lesson plans, almost to the minute. Running by bell schedules and things. So sometimes I have to think on the fly and be flexible in a stressful situation. It's just that. It's a stressful situation. So they want to know. But I think they feel more comfortable because we do have that flip chart. We do talk about it. We do run. So,
Thank you.
All right.
I'm coming up to speed.
Okay. All right. I think you're staying in place, right?
Yes.
We're just keeping
Any
you
other-
right
Any
here.
other questions?
We're good here? All right. Program of studies.
Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind for a lot of different reasons. If you saw in my board memo, just started with the purpose of the program of studies. A lot of the work that went into our next program of studies was to align it to the new Ed 306s, which is realigning some of the requirements, or minimum requirements, I should say, for graduation. So there's been a lot of discussion with my department chairs collectively or individually, with our school counselors to make sure that this program of studies does align with the new Ed 306s that goes into effect for the incoming class of 2030 for next year. So anyone who's going to be a sophomore, junior, or senior next year doesn't really affect them. They're under the old minimum standards. It's really with the incoming freshmen that we're going to have to realign something. So just some summary of the key updates. The reformatting. If you remember, I reformatted the program of study, I think 3 years ago. We reformatted it again to get it out of, we have a program called InDesign, which is a very powerful, great program, but I only use it once a year for this purpose. And so I was reteaching myself all the time. And Michelle Fisher, who's wonderful in our guidance office, she has also done some work on this over the years, but again, she only uses it for this. So what we did was we took it out of InDesign. Matt Stone helped us get it out of InDesign, and we put it into Google Docs for us, so it's just the ease of editing moving forward, so that anyone that comes in, if Michelle was able to leave, someone come in and should be able to utilize Google Docs pretty easily. We've updated the table of contents again for better formatting and better navigation. And you'll notice, if you look at the program of studies, we removed the flow charts. Remember, there were flow charts in there?
Yeah.
And the reason why I did that was because I felt like we were duplicating some of our efforts. What we didn't do is we put the flow charts in there, but what we didn't do was we didn't put the courses in order that they needed to be taken. So part of the reformatting was to take the flow chart out, but then reorganize the course descriptions in those core areas, math, social studies, English, and science, and put them in the chronological order in which they should be taken as best we could. So we made that realignment in there as well. We updated those pathways to graduation. If you remember, in the program of studies, there are 2 charts, one for the 20 and one for the 24 credit pathway. I've updated those again to align to the Ed 306s for the class of 2030. What you'll see is there are 4 of those planning charts now, because we need one just for the class of 2030, and then we need a set for the students who will be sophomores and older. So that's been in there. Again, we reiterated the importance of competency-based education, because that's where we're moving to as a state, that everybody has to be a competency-based system. And again, emphasizing the mastery of those locally defined competencies. This is something Mrs. Doyle and I have been talking about. She's actually going to attend one of our department chair meetings, and we'll continue those discussions around competencies. And then looking at those minimum graduation requirements and expanding the recognition of the extended learning opportunities, internships, and any interdisciplinary projects there. Let's see what else. So I talked about the diploma planning sheets. Oh, and then, so I may have talked about it here before. I cannot remember. But we, as you know, it is a requirement that all of our students in their civics class pass the U.S. citizenship test. And they have to pass it with a 70 or better. So up until last month, there was still some confusion in regards to how we administer that test. So schools or civics teachers across the state were doing it one of two ways. They were either developing their own citizenship test, still utilizing the same questions, all 128 of them. But Ms. Sinchos was utilizing a Google Doc or Google Form to administer the test. And other schools were doing the similar kind of paper pencil or some type of Google Doc. And then it was starting to come out in some of the Ed 306 meetings that I was attending that it's a requirement that we take it on the New Hampshire SAS portal, the TIDE system, similar to we do for New Hampshire SAS. And I had reached out to Christina Downing, who is a superintendent at, do you remember where?
Grantham.
Where?
Grantham.
Grantham. She has been kind of the point person across the state to kind of lead these workshops and all the changes to the Ed 306. So I reached out to her and I said, is this true? Like, are we going to have to? And she didn't really know because she was hearing different things. So I contacted the state directly and I said, just wondering if we can get some clarification. And that person was on vacation for a week, so I had to wait. Did receive an email back saying, yes, we do have to do it through the New Hampshire SAS portal. And then, ironically, a week later, there was a technical advisory that came out from our new commissioner, again, letting us know that this is what had to be done. So in order to make sure that we're prepared to do that, Matt Stone and I met with Mrs. Sinchos, started talking about what that would look like. So we're in the process of redeveloping how we administer that test. But it's, you're just going to sit and take the whole test. So it will be interesting to see how many of our students are able to pass it the first time versus taking it multiple times. I believe Mrs. Sinchos in the past would kind of give it in chunks at times to make it more manageable for students, but because it's an online test, we're no longer able to do that. We are able to pause that test, but if they pause it for more than 20 minutes, they can't go back and change anything. So it's best that we just try and fit it in our 80-minute block. So we'll be working on that. Under number 3 are just all our course and departmental updates. What you're going to see here is where we updated course descriptions, and we added a sentence to many of those course descriptions to make sure people, when they read it, knew that it satisfied those particular state requirements that are new. And I just need to give credit to our department chairs and school counselors for just being forward thinkers in regards to just our overall curriculum. For instance, there's a lot. It's been surprising to me to find that there's a lot of high schools that have not offered a financial literacy course, even though there's a technical advisory out there that says that we have to have it. When the technical advisory came out, Scott Zibby in the math department worked on putting that in place, put that in place. So we do not need to add that as a new requirement because we already have it. What we do need to make as a new requirement in math is statistics. So under the new requirements, we need to offer a half credit of statistics or some type of data analysis course. But I'm not going to develop a new course right now because, there's a lot that goes into that. It goes to if we do that, it goes to go with CAA and a process. But we already have a course in place with interest to statistics, but that would match that. So for the class of 2030, that will become a requirement for them, where for everyone else, it's just an elective for them to take. Okay, so that's how we're trying to meet those things. So where we were able to take existing courses and make sure that they meet those requirements, we've done that. Rhetoric and logic is another, because Kate LeClaire, our department chair, wanted to put that course in place a few years ago. We put it in place. We made it the requirement for 11th grade English. We already had it. There are schools that don't have it. And so they're struggling to figure out where they're going to put it. Are they going to put it in another department like social studies? Are they going to put it in English? So we don't have to worry about that. We're in really good shape there. The New Hampshire and U.S. Constitution are other requirements. And this is where, social studies gets a little interesting. Some schools are developing brand new courses to make sure that we meet that standard or that credit. What we're doing is we're going to embed competencies in existing courses to meet those requirements. So this is where the Ed 306 gets a little messy. So we are moving away from credits, and we are moving away from seat time with the new Ed 306s. Because we're moving towards the proficiency and mastery of competencies. However, if you go to the state website and you pull up the new Ed 306s, they have them outlined by credits, but we don't count credits. We're still going to work within that credit model because it helps us with planning and organization to help students get into schools and colleges after they leave us, if that's the direction that they go. So you may hear people saying, well, credits don't count anymore. Well, you're telling us that we need a minimum of 20, so they still have some teeth in that, right? And because there's no seat time, that's something that we're trying to figure out now as well as, for instance, if we take our reassessment policy, we're talking about that. We started talking about it back in August with my department chairs, that this is something I want to take a look at. Is it still serving its purpose? Do we need to change it? In our last admin council meeting, the question that came up that I hadn't thought about yet is if we're not counting seat time, but we're saying, we put in our structure that within 10 days, we'd like somebody, somebody that needs to take a reassessment to start that process for reassessment. Well, what happens if somebody doesn't finish a course successfully at the end of their let's say just freshman year, freshman English, and it was because of 2 competencies? But if there's no seat time, how long do we give them to finish those competencies, give them that credit from their freshman year? So these are things that I'm having to work through, and I'll continue to talk with Amy and our admin council to figure out how we address those pieces. Because again, it's really about completing the competencies, not seat time. So Carnegie units, all that stuff kind of goes out the window, and we're just having to think differently. Now, I don't suspect that we're going to have a lot of students that are going to forget about it because we're a small school. Our teachers are very good about staying on top of that and working with students to get those assessments made up or those competencies completed before moving on. What we do have in place are prerequisites. So in order to take sophomore English, you need to complete English 9. So in some areas, we do have some safeguards in place because we have prerequisites. So it may mean that we have to think about prerequisites for more courses to help keep students on track. So that's just an idea that I've been thinking about. We'll continue to talk about with them in council as we move forward. So those, that's really the, I can answer questions about the memo that I've submitted here. The course levels and section on page 6, we again updated there. I did do some combining of some paragraphs around early college, running start dual enrollment programs on page 7, so it falls under the early college at your high school section of the program of studies. And again, I was just looking to make sure that we were as consistent as we could be with our course descriptions in every part of this program of studies. Make it a little easier to read for people, and to, again, just strengthen the communication of our expectations around academics at our schools. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, what is competency-based learning? What does that mean?
So competency-based
in opposition to what?
So there are standards and there are competencies written for every single course. So our department chairs, working with the departments, came up with overarching competencies. And those competencies are what we want our students to know and be able to do, basically, for any particular subject.
Okay. So minimum things that you should learn in order to complete a course.
Correct. And we want them to perform at a level of proficiency where that would be so right now our level of proficiency is a mark of a 70 or better. And so that's where we would want our students to perform. So if they don't achieve a 70 on a competency-based assessment, they have to retake that so they can get to a 70 or higher to pass that competency or set of competencies.
So that's in opposition to what? Because I think you said that there's a movement toward competency-based education. So a movement from what? Like what's the...
Because there's no requirement that every school has to have competencies written.
So that's different than what, like a passing grade?
A number grade.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
that's what I'm trying to,
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Like on the real 10,000 foot view, what our terms mean here.
Yeah.
So as opposed to getting a a C or better to pass a course. This is saying to pass the course, you need to hit these benchmarks.
To be able to do very specific things, have a particular set of knowledge, a particular set of skills, rather than just like, you got a 70 on your test, congratulations. Like, it's very finite. So there are overarching competencies for each, I'm sorry, is that okay?
Yep,
For
of course.
each content area, but then each course, and you can see the amount of work, I was just thinking, the amount of work that they did for each course to say what competency it meets is just amazing.
The learning
Like, in the
targets are
long
massive
run,
targets.
because a student can then recover that, just the competencies that they've missed. Because I mean, I think of competencies as, like, when you're an elementary teacher, most of us thought on a continuum that you have that philosophy of not yet. You don't know it right now, but eventually you will. And competencies, I think of it that way. You didn't know it today. What learning is going to happen between now and the next time we're going to assess you? And what does the support and learning look like? And it usually just was, you failed this, you never get a chance to learn that content again.
Yeah.
So we're moving away from the second part.
Okay, I'm not gonna hijack the meeting, but I'm still having a hard time. I mean, to me, if you get a D, then you didn't learn certain things, or you didn't.
But you never have a chance to learn that D. So competencies say you have to meet these particular things. You can't get out of this course without knowing these things.
Right. Okay.
Right. So sometimes like you could do well in other things because I work at a competency based school and it would bring your average enough to walk away, but maybe the kid can never, doesn't spell. Competency based grading says you cannot leave this course until you have met proficiency
Right.
in,
but you don't get credit for a course that you don't pass either.
right. But sometimes your average, right? Traditional grading back in the day, you could have a kid who maybe failed this test and this test, but the average was high enough in other pieces that it would bring the kid out and they passed English.
But they still can't
But
read.
they maybe still couldn't spell
Right.
because it was just one aspect of the course. So using learning targets and competencies would say that all of these are valuable and you must achieve a certain level of proficiency on all of the targets as
But
opposed
your
to.
confusion is similar to what Chris said, is that there's a lot of information and literature around competencies, but the state is still saying you need a half a credit. So they're like, you're right on target with however people that aren't living it, you're thinking, well, then why are you giving me a half credit for it?
And
If you're saying I just need to know these competencies.
some schools have done away with grades altogether.
altogether,
And they're
and
doing.
credits altogether. Yep.
Yep, they're doing, exemplary, proficient.
Yeah. I guess to me it's. Anyway. Appreciate you.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
hard.
why, I've been, I don't know how many of Ed 306 meetings I've attended. I've attended Ed 306 meetings that were curriculum specific, and I had the department chairs join those meetings so that they were aware of what those changes were going to be. And if we didn't have these meetings with the principals or the superintendents that were running these, I don't think we would have been in a good spot to present a program of studies this early. It's, I get the, like, the best way I can describe the competency is it's what we want our students to know and be able to do
Sure.
at a particular level.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
And then we also want that knowledge to be transferred. So what we're not doing, you may, like if you were to talk to other schools, there are some schools, for instance, that didn't have the personal finance or financial literacy course, but they don't have the staffing.
Right.
So they're embedding those competencies that would be in that personal finance course into their economics course. And then what they're doing is they're playing the credit game, and even though they don't have to, but they're now awarding a semester-long class 1 credit. I didn't want to go down.
Because they can pull out
Right.
these proficiencies and these
That's right.
We don't need to
proficiencies,
do
yeah.
that because we've, I think, again, to the credit of our faculty, we're forward thinking about adding some courses over the years that have allowed us to be got in a much better place as I started going, I'm like, oh my God, this is really going to blow up. Like, are we ready to do this? This became the principal's worst nightmare of these changes. But the more I started to peel back at this and say, okay, no, we got this, we have this, we have this, going to Kate Sintros and saying, Kate, these are the changes in social studies, how can we make this work? Oh, we have these competencies, this is going to satisfy this. I didn't have to combine anything. And I don't know that I would have gone to, Amy and said, I want to change this course from a half credit to a full credit for just a semester, because then that gets confusing in the eyes of the public too.
That's the piece to your point, and to your point as well, having made the transition to a competency-based school a couple of years ago, there was a lot of community education that went into, because grade reports look different, right? Report cards, transcripts looked a little bit different. And so there is going to be a process, of educating, the students and the community about, what those things look like, and different iterations of how, we tried it this way one year and we need to change this. So it's a journey.
It is. I mean, in the state of New Hampshire, typical fashion, they still want local control. They're saying that this is what we want you to do, but it's local control. We don't know. We don't care how you get personal finance. Talk to the students, but you got to teach it. And that's where some schools are like, well, we're going to combine these two courses for a semester. But then that waters down the other half of the curriculum. And so forget rigor, right? And that's not what I want as the building principal for our school. That's not what I believe our community or school board wants. And that's not what our department chairs and teachers want. They don't want to water anything down. This doesn't water anything down. Thank you. Myself.
She's just biting my tongue off over here, biting it off. In my view, Jonathan, competencies certainly have their place. My issue with the evolution of competencies was there was a notion put out by the person who was the Board of Education person at the time that seat time was all that mattered. We were just giving grades away, and that was a load of malarkey. A well-designed test in 2010 looks just like a well-designed competency test in 2025. If you were a good teacher doing your job, there was no difference. The difference here is students now have the opportunity, as Amy said, to retake a segment if they missed that piece, whereas before their grade would go from a 93 to an 83. That's fine. The downside for me in all of this, in terms of the soft skills, which I would consider the hardest skills that we get, is what habits are we teaching students? And I can't tell you the number of times that I got frustrated when a student would come in prior to a test, or worse, a presentation period where one presentation builds on another, and just say, well, I'm not ready, I'll just make it up on competency. That is, to me, the black hole of competencies.
And it still is.
The next time is the problem. And that's why, this, how we're going to reassess. And we went through some processes where you had to sort of earn that reassessment, capability.
And that process, that two-tiered process is still there.
Yeah.
And to be fully transparent, I mean, teachers do it at different levels of fidelity. We talked about that in counseling. And so how do we go about, tightening that back up, but then also supporting one of my goals around, equitability, for all students. Because, students are good at playing the game of students, right? I mean, if they really enjoy one particular subject here, or we're really good at it, they may study for that, but knowing there's a reassessment, push that other one off. So that was a frustration of teachers. So that's where I think the two-tiered system came into place, where teachers were asking for evidence or looking for evidence that they did actually prepare for some of the assessment in order to achieve, the right to reassess, or the privilege, I should say. So we're looking for the approval of the program of studies so that we can then send it to print. I can take that word draft off of it.
Chris, can I ask you a few questions before?
Please.
Sorry, that got along. So the diploma planning sheets, when do those happen? Is that done annually by students? Is it done like in their freshman year?
So those are in this program of studies, and that's more for the students and the parents to see what they need to take in each particular subject area. The school counselors also have a 4-year planning sheet that they keep. They write down the courses that they took in their freshman year, and then when it comes time for them to do the next set of course selection, they make sure that they're on a continuum to graduate with either one of those diploma paths.
So I guess the question is like, who's reviewing that with the student and when to see that they're on?
Counselors.
Okay.
During the course selection process.
Okay. The independent studies, I get a lot of questions during the budget process about the value of our independent studies and whether that's something we should just do away with. So we've got, at my count, we've got 11. Can you talk a little bit about how well subscribed they are, those kinds of things?
Well, the number will vary from year to year. The reasons behind why a student may end up in an independent study may be.
No, oh, sorry, I misspoke. I have independent study here at AP courses. I'm talking about AP courses. So we have 11 AP courses.
Okay.
And, yeah, I remember a gentleman saying, well, we have these high-level courses, but a lot of colleges aren't accepting them as credit, which in my personal experience is false because I saved 2 semesters worth of tuition at UNH based on AP courses. So, like,
It has changed.
what's the design there in terms of how many students are taking AP courses at the high school?
Like, how many do we have enrolled?
Yeah, like in a
AP
typical
courses?
year.
I think they're pretty well subscribed. I don't have a number off the top of my head. The least subscribed is Calc BC, but that's a pretty high level capstone course for math students. But like AP US, is well subscribed from one semester to the next, or 1 year to the next. Because Mr. Hallian does a great job of that. I was in AP Psych with Miss La Rochelle, a full class of 24 kids. So I think there's a strong desire by our student body to take AP courses, and I would not suggest that we remove any AP courses that we currently have. We have one student that I know that's taking 5 AP courses right now because they're just academically driven. We wouldn't recommend that because it is a heavy course load, but they are popular courses, and I think they do bring value for those students that are maybe looking for a particular college or university to apply to, whether it's an Ivy League or not.
I think a lot of the colleges have caught on to the AP sort of game, and quite a few schools have stopped. They've started taking maybe one humanities, right? So if you're taking an AP US history and you're taking like your AP, lit and composition or whatever, and you manage to get 4s or 5s on both, they'll only take one. And you'll see that in the state at UNH, like they'll be like, oh, we'll only take, but what they do provide, having a kid who just went through, is the rigor. Yeah. That if they are college bound, which would probably be why they're taking an AP course, is it certainly prepares them for a college level course.
And in some of those courses, they're doing the Socratic seminar, and those students enjoy that environment. And I think that's one reason why I think some of those students that enjoy attending SLED that we heard about, I know we already brought it up once or twice already, but being able to take what they learn in those courses and then apply it in an organization or a club like SLED is like an extension of that knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. And then being able to apply it at St. A's and go undefeated in an environment that they're not comfortable with. You mentioned skills. I mean, it gives them those communication skills. And that ties back to our portrait of a learner, which is one of the 5 aspects of the portrait of a learner, be able to collaborate, be able to communicate. So I think there's a lot of value in AP courses.
I agree. Our
AP stats course, I looked at those numbers today because of the stats course. I was just kind of digging a little bit. On average in that class over the last 7 years, we have 20 students on average take that per year in a small school like ours.
And score well.
Yeah.
But, I would also, I'm far away from AP courses. But separate and aside from getting credit, there's also just, as a student, it's good to challenge yourself. And there's value in the study, right? Like, in my opinion. You take the test to get the credit. You take the course, you may take the course for a lot of reasons because you want academic rigor. Right. And that has value, intrinsic value, in my opinion, separate and aside from transactional value.
And we have a strong number of students who do participate in the AP exam. We don't require it. Some high schools do, that if you sign up for an AP course, you're required to take the AP exam. But our numbers are very strong as far as participating in that exam. And overall, throughout the years, we've scored well on those.
And you've created quite a few more dual enrollment courses as well. So, we're providing opportunities for students. That's the name of the game, I guess, is to give everybody a pathway to graduation and success
Yeah,
after.
right now, we have 24 students enrolled in early college. They changed it, sorry, I always mess it up. But in that dual enrollment of early college at your high school, and of those 24 students, I think it's 13 that are doubled up.
Yep.
So, that's, again, when you think of juniors and seniors, that's a nice little percentage for a school our size of taking advantage of that opportunity at some level.
Yeah, I think when we were doing the 20 credit pathway work, spent some time looking at what's offered in other regional schools, because there's this sense that we are offering above and beyond, and we're actually on par or below schools around us, John Stark, Bow, Concord, et cetera. And that sort of speaks to staff being really willing to take on a heavy burden, because with 3, 4, 5 preps, teaching an AP course is a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, and being able to support those teachers. Miss La Rochelle, she had 5 preps last year, first-year teacher. And it was stressful for her. I think she would tell you that. And we did the best that we could to support her. And in my evaluations of her this year, she's hitting out of the park as a second-year teacher. There's not a lot of teachers that will do 5 preps or 4 preps. I did 4 preps.
I've done
It's
it.
a lot of work.
Don't enjoy it.
And the AP course, it's a prescribed curriculum, right? It's national. And we also are at a disadvantage in New England because we start later. So I always feel like Lucy's like, that's right, because we're running up against that deadline that kids,
And the test
some
is early.
some students have a month more content than our students do. So they're really working from the minute they get in there. It's an advanced course, but also accelerated, right? It's that combination. And it's one thing we were trying to get through A-Push, which I think Mr. Nato probably taught, but the calc.
I taught AP
that's
Psych.
hard, AP Psych, but it's a lot.
It is. And so, when you have to hire teachers, it's getting harder to find teachers that are willing to teach the AP course. So, again, I'll just say we're very fortunate. If I've had any good Irish luck, it's been in hiring and finding teachers that are willing to come to Hopkinton and teach our students.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, well, this is great. I really like the new formatting. I think it flows really well.
Thanks.
And I know that you took out the flowcharts, but I like that you took them out. They always confused me. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it was a good idea at the time. It was something
Yeah.
different. And I think it served its purpose because we were also going through those curriculum changes
oh yeah,
in social studies and a couple other areas to delineate what classes had to follow what. But we're really out of that now. It's only class of 2030, but we've also tried to realign some of those requirements so that it works for all of our students in every class.
yeah. No, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it makes sense to also have it in Google and not in InDesign, because who wants to teach themselves InDesign every year? That sounds like a nightmare.
There were a few days that I had to take a walk.
Yeah, that's awful. All right. So with that, is there a motion to approve the 2026-2027 Hopkinton High School Program of Studies as presented?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Congratulations.
Thank
You've
you.
got a
Thanks,
program
Chris.
super
Thank you.
early too. I just would like to note, this feels like a very early program of studies. This is fantastic.
Yeah, we were on it.
High five for you.
Yes, a lot of work went into it with our school counselors and teachers, so.
Yeah, well,
Thank
kudos
them as
to
well.
them all. That's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. See you later.
You're like, we are out of here. All right. Well, the fun just keeps coming. With that, we are going to now talk tuition rate setting. And Laura has some exciting information for us, right?
Yeah. Based on our 10, excuse me, I'm still fighting a little bit of a cold. Based on our 10-1 enrollments, we have a district-wide enrollment of 914 students. So we take the total amount of our budget and divide it by that amount, and make a couple other fun adjustments based on expenditures at the schools. And we come out this year with a final tuition rate of $23,134.67 for elementary and $21,877.86 for secondary, which is middle high school.
Excellent. And Laura, this should not be considered like, quote, what it costs to like necessarily educate, because this is like less transportation and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. So this is a specific equation that we use for kids that are coming in from out of district.
Yep.
Got it. I just wanted to clarify that.
That's exactly it, yes.
Okay. Any questions about this?
Does the calculation include our special education costs?
Yes. And I think I would just mention from the enrollment standpoint, you see a reduction in our middle school enrollment. That's because that very large class moved to 9th grade this year. And so we expected to see that.
All right. Like a big wave rolling through. Okay. Any other questions about this? No? Do we know how many students? We do not have very many students.
We don't have very many. Maybe 4 or 5.
Okay. Great.
This year.
Super. And do you need an official vote from us?
Yes, please.
To accept this. Okay. So is there a motion to accept the 2025-2026 Hopkinton School District tuition rate as presented?
Yes.
Great.
Second.
Excellent.
So quick.
Any discussion? No, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for doing that.
Of course.
Okay. That was easy. We have another presentation. So Matt Stone gets to come on down and talk to us about Chromebooks.
So I'm actually going to let Amy start.
Okay.
Oh, great. Amy's going to talk to us about
Well,
Chromebooks.
just briefly, Matt is going to maintain his man behind the curtain motif. So
As much as possible.
at one of the last meetings, we talked about providing some Chromebook budgeting information. And before we did that, we talked about surveying the teachers to get a sense of how they are using their devices, how satisfied they might be about them, and that would help inform our decisions about funding for them moving forward. When we were working through the public hearing, we also talked about how we really needed to put into place a more sustainable device replacement process. So I've had a lot of conversations with Matt, and you know that he knows all things devices. I was really particularly thinking about how are teachers using their devices in the classroom, and how can we ensure that our financial budgeting and our obligation to them is replacing those devices in a way that makes it sustainable, but also is responsive to student learning. So Matt and I put out a survey. We got really good feedback. I was really glad that the teachers took the time. It's a busy time. We got over 50 responses, which is great. More than 50% of our responses were from the high school. So I think your earlier comment related to NEASC, I didn't want to jump in. I do think that part of what we are going to talk about related to the speed of the Chromebooks, that was a piece of feedback that we got primarily. And if we just, it's an anonymous survey, but if we just say 50% of the responses came from the middle high school, they're our biggest users. So as you go through the express concern, as Matt is on the slide deck up here, is around the speed, and students with personal devices seem to have an advantage over those that have to use the district device. We talked a lot about that during the public hearing. I know that was a conversation that you had as a board. If you have a MacBook Air, you're certainly at an advantage over a student that is using our Chromebook, even if it's a brand new Chromebook. So we want to be cognizant of that as well. As you go through some of the responses, as I mentioned, 50% came from the middle high school, about 25% from our other two buildings. Classroom teachers overwhelmingly are the responses that we received, but also special ed, unified arts, some of our support staff decided to fill out the survey, interventionist, literacy specialist. There was a moment where someone wrote in athletic director and asked if it was still anonymous.
I did like that.
We told them, it's not. We actually know who you are. How often are you using your Chromebook? Most of our devices are used either daily or several times a week, more than 2/3. So that is also something for us to keep in mind, that there is a large demand for our devices and they are being used for these instructional purposes in the classroom environments. So Matt, you can't quite see all of the responses. So the questions themselves, we asked, what do students use the Chromebook for in your classroom? So top response there, accessing core instructional materials. So if you think about some of the content that students are digesting in their class or that is accessible to them, we would be thinking about Amplify at K through 6, illustrative math. They have online pieces. You talked about AP. A lot of the AP content now is online. Of course, you have to have some textbooks, but they are accessing that content for core instruction. Completing online assessments. It's important within our MTSS system that we have core assessment tools to provide diagnostic assessment, but then also progress monitoring information. And we're also required to administer statewide assessments on district devices. So if you think about things like the SAS or the DLM or whatever we are giving to students, we talked a little bit about the civics test. We are required to have privacy and data control on those devices, so we have to use district devices. Other
The AP tests now as well are also all online, almost all online. I think all the ones we give are online, and they also need to be on district-owned devices.
Yes, SATs for statewide assessment, PSATs, right. Research and information gathering, writing and editing documents, accessing intervention, enrichment, or extension materials, and then we just allowed people to give us other ways that they're using them. So some are using them to record information, digital lab sensors. Kindergarten, they're using them to listen to read, learning to type, which forget that that's a skill that we are still teaching students, science simulations, and creating spreadsheets. So we have, I think, a lot of information about how the devices are being used. And then when you look at satisfaction, overwhelmingly, people are, I think, satisfied with the device. When you start to get into, less than, about 12, 13, 14% are either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. And then the comments, we didn't put a lot of the comments up, but we did take some time to unpack them. It's a lot of timing. They take a long time to boot up. Sometimes they crash. They can't have more than 3 tabs open at once. I mean, those are things that you heard about during the public hearing. So when Matt talks about the next part, which is related to the budget, one of the things that we talked about is replacing 2 grade levels per year, and just having that as part of our budget process as much as we can. And I know that you're carefully looking at every dollar that is put into the budget. So as Matt walks you through the monetary part, just thinking about a couple of things. Right now, we are committed to a 1-to-1 environment. I think that we're making do with the devices we have. We know that many of them are at the end of their life. We have feedback from teachers that are letting us know that they're happy that we have that resource, but that the speed of the older Chromebooks and it is problematic. So Matt, can you talk a little bit about the financial part?
Sure, and I had intended to add a few more slides for some more options, but I didn't get to it. Fun week. But the general rule, as we talked about during our public hearing, the plan that I presented is based on maintaining our current program. So that's a 1-to-1 in grades 2 through 12 with some devices available for grades kindergarten and 1, and those early devices are largely focused on touchscreen devices, so they're a little more friendly for users for whom the touchpad and the mouse are a little tricky still. as we talked about as well, we've kind of gotten through with the purchase space earlier this year, the worst of the, unevenness from COVID. So this is really about what is our level plan going forward and trying to have a target within a company, what can we sustain? So the top line there, the columns, essentially what I looked at was two possible models. One where at our lower grades we switch, or we either maintain our current program, or we switch to having 2 carts per grade level. So that would essentially be 1 device for every 2 students. The challenge of that is significant in terms of coordination for teachers. I think any resource that teachers know they can count on, they use much more frequently and much more fidelity than one that has to be coordinated. That was our experience with a number of rollouts that we did, whether it was document cameras or projectors in the classroom or anything like that. If the teachers knew they always had it available, they would make it part of their planning. If they don't know that it's available, they're much less inclined to use it as part of their everyday instruction. That being said, good sharing among teams is certainly possible. It can be done, and we have great teachers. So really just broke down the numbers. This is all based on a 5-year lifespan, which is a little bit longer than I would ideally like. 4 would be better, but we're trying to make do. And again, this is not saying that if we fund at a certain level, we're going to go in and rip the Chromebooks out tomorrow. We have devices in hand. We'll have to make the call on whether, we can sustain them. But, I think teachers, given a choice between slow Chromebooks and no Chromebooks, would stick with slow. So really just, what grade levels does it support if you cut the annual investment? This is really, it looks a little more dramatic because again, you're investing over the course of 5 years. So this is at the end of 5 years, where would we be if we wanted to maintain the program? So I'm happy to talk options. I'm happy to answer any questions, but just wanted to go through some of the financial numbers and sort of how we arrived where we did.
Questions?
Simple. So I'm struggling a little bit here with what is the cost of the 2-year plan?
$50,000.
50,000. Okay.
Because that would essentially give us 10.
And is that what you put? What did you put in your budget for this year?
50,000.
50,000. Okay.
Now, I'm noticing that on daily usage, it's like 30% are saying they occasionally or rarely use them. Any idea, because that's not correlated with grade level? Like, is that, you think, elementary? Or what's your, is there a way to get that, like, correlated with grade level? Because
Yes.
I'd be curious if they could, it's easier at an elementary school to maybe work with teams or banks than it is at a high school.
That is certainly plausible. The numbers certainly support strong daily usage. We do track how many are used on a daily basis. I'm happy to come back with some data. I was hoping to add it to this slide with that. But I would say that the survey responses are totally line up with the data that we have. Most,
Yeah,
more than
70% of
300.
people are using them, but about 30 say they rarely or occasionally.
Yep.
So potentially could do with a bank as opposed to one-to-one.
I wonder though, just since we have like an IA, an interventionist, a specialist, a counselor, like, I don't know if it's teachers who are saying.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
Right. I
is
think.
it elementary?
So is
It's like where we,
is it the teachers who are saying they're using them daily or rarely, or is it a non-teacher who is?
and is it a high school teacher versus an elementary teacher?
Yeah.
And certainly even, our paras in many cases, RIAs, are using devices for monitoring completion plans and things like that. So certainly the staff usage of technology is also very high and important because, special education, having that data is vitally important to see if the students are on track. So that's sort of the piece that some of the students who have greater challenges may not be using the technology themselves, but it's being used on their behalf.
Matt, can you remind me of the process? Is the student getting a Chromebook for the duration of their high school career, or is it an annual redistribution?
So right now, incoming seventh graders receive them and new students receive them on entry, and then they are replaced when they hit end of life based on the model that they happen to receive. So there ideally would be a sort of, one ideal model would be like you receive one device in fifth grade, you receive another device in ninth grade, and then you keep it for those 4 years. We have not ever gotten onto that because we don't take them home in grades K through 6. So we have a one-to-one, they are in carts in the classroom. Students access them, they know, oh, I have number 17, I go take number 17 out of the cart. We do find that assigning them one, we do get more care taken of the device, certainly, even if it's not always perfect care. That is the case.
I had a question around, so if the issue is slow Chromebooks is the main complaint, if that's the problem, is the solution new Chromebooks, or is it different kinds of Chromebooks, or is it both?
We and most other schools around New Hampshire settled on Chromebooks as the most cost-effective way of having a one-to-one program. Chromebooks have many advantages. They are pretty easy to administer, so we don't necessarily, we didn't add a staff member when we went to a one-to-one program. Had we done like one-to-one MacBooks or iPads or something like that, I would have been in saying, nope, that is a lot of work. We are going to need some extra hands to do that. Chromebooks are much easier to centrally manage. They're easy to deploy, redeploy, things like that. So, taking a brand new device and how long can it be in the hands of students? Chromebook, you're usually talking 20 to 30 minutes, and most of that is waiting for it to update to the latest version. It's hands-off time. You can have one person do quite a stack at once. I speak with some experience on this. I have some great pictures from COVID days. I had a table full, several tablefuls actually. So in terms of, I don't think there is a more cost-effective device if we want to stick to a one-to-one program. There are certainly other very effective one-to-one programs out there that have done iPads, that have done Windows devices. Maine was doing MacBook laptops for years. That's very effective. It's not very cost-effective. So if we want one-to-one at cost-effective rates, the Chromebooks that we buy are certainly a more affordable model. We do pay for a few upgrades. For instance, we do add a processor that allows us to access certain curriculum items. So an Intel processor allows us to run certain software that we count on. We buy some more RAM precisely for that 3-tab problem. Our newer ones have more RAM. The old ones are getting pretty tired, but so that is, we buy, I think, the lowest model that allows us to have a low total cost of ownership because the devices last longer and allow us to fully access our curriculum. So we certainly could buy a more expensive machine and have more fidelity, but those numbers at the last slide would certainly go up in response. I know some schools are paying north of $400 for their Chromebooks. Currently, we pay a little under $300 for the device itself, and then there's a one-time management fee that allows us to manage them centrally and sort of allows us to do all of those assessment pieces, makes it a district-owned device.
Gotcha. That's helpful.
What about I know like when I was there, you did a lot of work on improving the network capacity. Where is that at in terms of a more juice system being able to help with that lag, or are we in pretty good shape?
Our fiber connection is in great shape. We have a really good outside connection from our buildings through our partner First Light. The wireless access point is continually upgraded. There is funding in this year to replace the oldest wireless access points so that our classrooms will have both greater speed and more capacity for the number of devices. But I would say in general, we're not being held back too much by the Wi-Fi, except in the rare case when something is going on. Or I would say there are a couple of classrooms that have interesting architecture that leads to some certain challenges in a few rooms. The engineering room is a tough room to get great Wi-Fi in, with the open ceiling and the exposed beams and a few other things like that. But no, I would say in general, our capacity is sufficient for the number of devices that we have. One thing we did a long time ago was decided we would have one access point for every classroom. And that's, to me, the real key to having a stable network for Wi-Fi. There are places that try and split one Wi-Fi access point across multiple classrooms. It's a nightmare. I don't recommend.
You have more questions? So another question I was wondering, and I don't know if this was asked in the survey, but I didn't know if the survey indicated or asked at all about like our teachers wanting to continue to have, and I think you kind of alluded to this, would they like to continue to have access to computers?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there's
We
no
didn't
one.
have a Likert scale for that, but that
Okay.
came through pretty strongly in the
Okay.
comments.
Yes.
That was a consistent theme.
Okay. So because what I'm basically asking is like, do teachers want us to no longer be a one-to-one district is kind of the question.
Yeah,
It
there's
sounds like.
no indication in the comments or, just in any conversation that we've had. I think what they're hoping is actually for devices that are quicker. And there were a lot of comments about, when we shifted away from everyone has to use a district device, to students that are bringing their own device, that they really felt like that was inequitable. That came up, and that was, and you all discussed that as well. But I think that's just part of where we are as a district. And when you have to choose between, as Matt said, we're not going to give every student a MacBook. But if we have the ability and parents have the resources to provide a device, we are offering that.
What do you guys need from us this evening?
I think this is a reflection of the question really related to the funding and the ask from Matt. We did have the public hearing. We took out $40,000. He has ordered those devices. They've come in. They're in the hands of students. And so then moving forward, I think we're all hoping, to get a sense, from you as well of should we be planning for a one-to-one? Are we planning to shift away from one-to-one at lower grade levels? I don't see how we move away from a one-to-one at the high school level. That doesn't seem, responsible as a school district. But I think that will help us to determine, curriculum materials that we might purchase. What are we going to do about assessments? As we know, there are statewide assessments that have to be given on a district device. So if we're moving from a one-to-one to a two-to-one, we just want to be able to plan and have teachers plan for that as well. Because then we would go back to the days of, all of the Chromebooks have to go to grade 4 because they're doing their SAS testing. I've taught through that. I know you taught through that, and that is it's not insurmountable, but it definitely takes planning and preparation on the behalf of the tech team and teachers.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we can either continue to have this discussion now, or we can also wrap it into our budget discussion, which we're about to have also now.
Let's wrap it.
We'll wrap it in together. All right. Great. Does anyone, before Matt leaves the table, does anyone have any other questions for Matt? I mean, he's not going far. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Poor Matt doesn't get to leave. So, yeah. Thank you very much for doing this, though. This is really helpful. Okay. So, with that, budget discussion.
So I think we've all been, had some time to look at both the salaries and benefits and the operating costs. And we talked about it at finance yesterday in terms of where we're going. So I think I'd like to begin by just kudos to Amy and Laura, because I think one of my personal things was let's not start a budget process where we're putting all of our wants and needs in and then bringing it down. And I don't think you did that at all. I think on the salaries and benefits side, the FTEs are actually a little bit lower. The operating costs, really, when you X out special ed, is a little over $300,000. So thank you for that. So normally at this point, if we go back 2 years ago, we said to Mike, you need to make $800,000 go away and come talk to us then. So we're not in that ballpark at all. That said, the overall increase is at 5.09%, so a little over 5. And if I can go back to the days of Jim O'Brien, I would like to see if there's a consensus of the board to give Amy and Laura some direction to bring that percentage down to somewhere in the 4.5% to 4.75% range. And with the expectation of it being predominantly on the operating side of your budget, without taking away your capacity to do your jobs. And by that I mean, Amy, first-year superintendent, you have some goals as to what you want to do, and we want to make sure that you have the funding to pursue those goals. But we do think that it's going to be a lot more palatable to the budget committee and to the town if we can get that into that 4% range, which is more in line with the measures of inflation that we tend to look at. I hope that all makes sense.
Makes sense to me, Bob. I mean, I agree. There are some things that I would specifically, going through the budget that I question. I'm still salty about the storage pods that we're paying for. I'm like, just either buy some storage pods and then sell them when we're done, or get rid of them. And we have 3 to 4 buildings. Let's make it work. The retirement party, as a teacher, I think you take care of your people, and that's how they're best served. I think that can be scaled back. I'm not saying we don't thank people for 20 or 30 years of service, certainly, but there's no need to rent out the barn at Bull Meadow would be my preference. It feels tone deaf in the current economy, but I agree, if we can get it down in the 4s, that would sit better with me.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, we talked about it in the finance yesterday, so I think, I think a small reduction to around somewhere in that, in terms of a general direction, I would support. I think that, to echo the way that Rob started, I mean, you were given a charge to try to sort of short circuit the start here, wind up here approach. And I feel that in good faith that you did that. So I'm certainly not looking for a very significant reduction from where you've already reduced it to. We're not looking at sap, we're looking at syrup. So maybe we're talking about the difference in. Just came up?
Yeah.
It's a good one. I'm going to write that down.
Grade A, grade B, what are we doing?
But I think, without belaboring the point, people are unhappy with the economy, people feel stressed, people feel pinched at the grocery store and at the gas pump and everywhere else. So if we can get under 5, I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah. No, I think, I've had I'm not on the budget committee, certainly I've had the opportunity to go to the budget committee meetings, looking at what you both have already been able to reduce. I hope folks appreciate, to Rob's point, how much has already been reduced, so that as a board, we don't have to make those significant reductions that we have had to do in the past. I worry because since we have not had to do that in public, it may seem like we are only having to make a small reduction. However, you know, a lot of work has already gone into this budget. You guys have done so much already, and really should be commended on your work, because I know that it is not easy. I know that we last year already had 2 contracts go through, and so that was a weight that we already knew that we would be carrying. And so I think that aiming for, you know, a 4.5, 4.75 certainly is very reasonable. So I'm in line with these guys as well. You know, I think it's one of those things where, is everyone going to be happy? No. But I think that it strikes the balance of maintaining a district that overwhelmingly people are very proud of and that serves the needs of our students, while also supporting the majority of folks who live here in the best way that we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? On the topic of computers, do we have anything else? Do we have any additional thoughts that we would like to share about that? Since we just heard about that and we have been asked for some kind of direction. Or do we want to think about it? We can always kick that can.
I think what we've done is entrusted Amy and Laura and her people to sort of say, like, this is, I mean, my personal thoughts about computers are that COVID changed everything, right? And we went one-to-one. We certainly did use banks of computers, you know, I say back in the day, 5 years ago, like it wasn't that long ago where we were sort of organizing our stuff. I think we can consolidate at the younger levels. If that's where you see, okay, if I need to go into the 4s, this is where I think we can make do here, here, and here. To me, that's not an easy cut, but it's a reasonable place. But I'm not going to tell you how to, right? We hired you to run the district.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, you know, with this charge, Laura and I, for probably the December 4th meeting, will come forward with the list that gets us as close to 100,000, 4.5, 4 point, just doing some quick math in my head between 4 and so I appreciate the range. It's a little harder to get, you know, right at 4.5, 4.75. And I think also the community, you mentioned they voted on 2 contracts last year. So they knew that an increase out in this area was coming, right? It was something they had already voted on. So I appreciate the compliments. Laura works incredibly hard. I mean, she's not saying anything, but I mean, the amount of work that went into developing the spreadsheets, I'm thankful for the team. They know that our next conversation is going to try to hit those numbers. I was able to get some of the feedback from the budget committee meeting, and it seems like they also recognized that there was a lot of work that went in before it went to them. So that was also really nice, I think, for 2 maybe a little more introverted numbers people to hear that. It was nice at the end when they said, you know, they thanked us for the work, and similar to the comments that you've made, they recognize that an additional cut should be happening. People are hurting, but you know, our contractual obligations are already within that range. So we have work to do, and at the next meeting, we'll bring forward a list.
Great. All right. Excellent. Well, with that, we have a very brief policy update. It's like just a mini update. It's just everything is on to its second read. I'm not going to read through everything. I read them all last time. They're all on their second read now. Everything is available for everyone to see and click through. Please let us know. As a reminder, this is the Bank of I policies, and also EFAA, which is our meal charging policy. Please let Suzanne, Amy, or myself know if you have any suggestions. However, we will not be having a policy meeting until after the Thanksgiving break. So,
And I just want to point out that principal and assistant principal from the high school, policy IK reflects a lot of those changes that they were talking about.
Yeah.
You'll see the high school graduation worksheet, so to speak, in the new policy. So that's part of why these I policies are coming forward. We have to make sure that we're, ready for the class of 2030.
great. Good. Until we're running out of steam.
Yeah.
Okay. Laura.
Personnel. Time for the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
We'll start with our personnel. We did have a last minute change. I apologize for that. It's in a good way though. We have a new hire that's coming forward tonight. Joanna Dustin is going to be at Harold Martin IA full time, taking the Sam Chillis position. And then an unfortunate resignation. Sandy Babson, who came to us in June, has chosen to resign. Uneffective 12/5.
So if you know an accountant, would
I'm looking for one.
We have a fun workplace.
All right.
And that's it for our new hire sheet.
Great.
How many IAs are we still looking for in the universe?
About 3. And 0.37 or something in preschool.
Right. Yeah. Okay. For donations tonight, we have 2 to go over. The first is an anonymous donor has donated $500 to grade 4. And the second is Sarah Hof. I apologize, Sarah. Donated approximately $600 of photography equipment to the the middle high school art program. I talked to Miss Eason. She's very excited. She says this will really help her programs, and so she's very thankful. So we thank them very much.
Cool. That's great. Beautiful.
We have the October 31st financial statement in your packet as well. There is a revised statement based on some feedback from the Finance Committee, so please look at the one that is dated November 17th, the revised one. As of right now, it is very early on, but our projected unassigned fund balance as of June 30th is $393,308. That is our projected end of year at the moment. We are projecting that special education, if you look in the packet, I just want to point out that the primary function code of special education is 1200. There is a positive balance currently available. All of our placements haven't worked out yet though, and as we know, we just hired a new IA who will come out of that number. So I'm feeling like that will continue to decrease. Food service is currently trending in line with last year. We're within a couple $1,000s of revenue from last year. With that, I'm expecting to see a loss again this year. We'll keep a close eye on it, and I do expect, though, I'm projecting that we will need to use most of the full $100,000 for the fund balance for food service.
Lori, it shows that we have a balance of 116 in the CRTC. I know last year we took it on the chin a little bit there. How's that looking in the
Yes.
long run?
We just got in our budget estimate. I think that the CRTC itself, we're going to be well in line of that 116. It does say that it's available there. It's now fully encumbered, so November that will be all gone. The state bill is the one that hits us the most, the one that hits the hardest. I think that 116 will not cover the state bill from last year and this year's.
Thank you.
And once we get that state bill, which doesn't happen until about December or January, I'll bring it to the board if it is significant.
Does that change every year?
It does. It's based on what they have in their budget for vocational aid and our attendance. So if kids don't attend, the state says, I'm not going to pay for that. And then they put it on us to cover.
And the food service is trending the same, but we've increased the cost.
Correct.
That's not great.
So we were hoping to see by now, with the October being our full month of food service, a revenue gain,
Yeah.
and we aren't seeing that very much right now.
But we also went with steps on the.
Yep. Well, we went the full 25 cents.
Oh, we did.
We did.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Okay.
Do you have a sense of where that loss, is it the number of lunches being purchased, or is it just expenditure in terms of food cost?
As the HES contract continues to go up, there our expenses for our staff continue to go up, as well as I think our sales are down a little bit in terms of food sales.
Food cost also.
Yep, food cost continues to grow. While we have a buying group, we did still see an increase in the buying group, as well. The USDA commodity program, which used to be a free program, now has a cost to it as well. So while they give us the food at a reduced or free rate, it's now $7 for every delivery of every item, and so we're still paying for that, which we didn't have to in the past.
Laura, we talked about the tuition a little earlier. Can you just go to page 6 on the revenue piece, 1311 and 1312, and just give us a overview of the regular tuition versus the preschool tuition, where it comes from and why?
Sure. Our regular tuition, that revenue that we see there, we budget very conservatively for revenue. Students can come and go every year, mid-year, whatever it may be, and they're only responsible essentially till the end of the month. So we are seeing right now about almost $69,000 in preschool revenue. Now that is, again, remember the regular education students that come in, and so that ability to take them in is based on what we have for special education students. So we don't budget a lot for that program as well. We have, like I said, I think 4 or 5 out-of-district students right now, so that makes up about the $70,000 of tuition. And now that you voted on the tuition rate, they'll see a small reduction or a small addition to their bill for that modified rate, and that number will go up.
So just to refresh my own memory on the preschool, we are required by law to provide preschool for students that meet certain needs, but we also generate revenue from families who choose to tuition into that program.
Yes.
Thank you.
And one other thing to note on there, while I can, our 1740 is student activities. So that's our athletic fees. So for the fall sports, we receive $20,790 for fall sports. If we trend with that for all 3 programs, then we'll actually be ahead by about $5,000 of what we projected.
And those are from the fees.
Those are the athletic fees to participate, yes.
It's still $100 per activity per.
Yeah.
Which we increased 3 years ago, I think. We moved that up, maybe 4.
I remember.
Something like that. Sorry about that.
I got that bill.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
still a bargain, I think.
You know, that's what it is. It's cheaper than club.
It
Yeah.
is.
Or rec. Great. Any other questions on the financials for October? Okay. Once approved, they, like normal, within a couple of days, they'll be on our website under the business office tab under departments, so others can see it. And then the last piece is the finalization of the FY26 revenue. So I have worked with the Department of Revenue Administration, or the DRA, who sets the tax rate, and we have finalized our revenues for this year. So while we project them back in March, we go through the next 6 months really to let them iron out, to let them level out. So with the addition, thank you very much for the last meeting where we added the additional 20,000. We've added that in, and we've also heard that our special education aid is going to be higher than we anticipated. And so we are actually trending in line where we have a little bit more revenue than we planned. So we expect to see a small reduction to the tax rate, actually, hopefully, when it comes in the next few weeks. The MS-24 does not need to be signed by you. It's just for information only.
And that impacts the current tax rate for right now, not
Yes.
based on, nothing to do with next year's budget, this
Correct.
fiscal year that we're currently in.
Yep. This is the last piece of current year revenue. So now everything is finalized in here, and then we should see our tax rates in the next few weeks. in the next 2 weeks, when we meet again on the 4th, I'll be bringing you the revenue projections for next year and tax rate projections for the budget.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Laura? Still looking up.
Oh, yes, this is me.
Good?
I'm good.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry.
The glasses came up.
No, it's good. All right, great. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. On to you.
I just want to take a minute to thank the families that came in last week for parent-teacher conferences, as well as the staff. I mean, it was wonderful to see so many families coming and going from the buildings. I would just encourage folks to send in a request if you weren't able to come. We have tried really hard to accommodate either early morning or after school meetings. It's really important that families feel that connection between home and school, and that they know how their student is doing. Personally, I also want to thank folks for filling out the family engagement series survey that I sent out. The response has really been overwhelming. I've just been so pleased to hear people giving their feedback about the kind of information or the kind of series and events that they think would be helpful to them. So working with my team to figure out what will the events look like, who will we be bringing in. Of course, we will have a mix of our local talent as well as speakers that are experts on these particular subjects. Staffing, we still need a special education teacher at Herald, and now we also need an accountant over at the SAU, and always looking for instructional assistants and substitutes. We're lucky to be nominating someone tonight. She comes to us, she's wonderful. She has a lot of experience already with kids, which I think is great. And then I'm also interviewing a sub tomorrow. So we're really thankful that folks want to come in and help in the school. And I just want to remind everyone that there is no school next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we'll see everyone back in December. That's hard to believe. We will come back on December 1st.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, babe.
Just rocked our world.
Yeah, I know.
Not ready.
All right. Any questions, comments? No? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
Yes.
I believe that's so moved. Do you want to?
Second.
There you go. Great. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries. Wonderful. Okay. We are on to committee updates. Okay. I pulled up my little committee sheet because I forget all of our committees. Policy committee. We haven't met and we just talked about policies. Curriculum,
We meet Thursday.
instruction and assessment. We meet on Thursday. It's gonna be great. CIP.
We haven't.
Not met. That's totally fine. Safety and security. Nope.
There's
okay.
not been a meeting
No,
since.
January.
Excellent. Energy Management Committee met today. We reviewed, there is a survey that went out to the staff about their environmental or sustainability outlooks in the school and what they would like to do. And so we discussed that and some potential objectives for the committee as it finds new legs now that it's not focused on kind of the buildings. We have a couple of ideas, but have not settled on anything. And we watched a video on how cardboard is recycled, which is exciting. Finance.
So you've already gotten half the update. We did spend some time looking at the formatting for the monthly financials. So that work sort of continues as or I should say, as Laura settles into how she wants this to be presented. And then we spent some time talking about so I've had a conversation with a member of the budget committee, Don Houston, about fund balance and how to explain it. So what is the educational process? And Don really likes sort of a pictorial view of that. So he and I sat down recently and created or reviewed a flow chart that says, these are our categories, these are our surpluses and deficits, this is our total, these are our options where this can go. It is in rough draft form at this point, but we spent some time talking about that, and we'll continue to work on it, hopefully as a means of just, I think it's a difficult concept for folks, and maybe just another way of explaining what we're doing and how we're doing it, and what we can do, what are the options. So, in process.
Great. Excellent. Wellness, you guys met?
We haven't met. We'll meet in December.
Okay, super. And PD.
No, we won't meet until January. We get the approved PD master plan back from the DH.
Right. All right.
Just circling back to safety security, because it's related, I have the last info session tomorrow night for the security redesign project.
Okay.
And an update as to where that is. The series of contractors came and did the walkthrough, and then I believe earlier this week, Jim came back with some of those contractors and their subs to get a look. So we definitely have interested parties, and those bids are due in second week in December, I believe, and then we'll interview the contractors and select somebody so that when it comes time for the public hearing, we have all the information folks need to make a decision in January.
Great. And where is that info session?
It is the Hopkinton Republicans, and it is at the Sluicer Center at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Great, thank you.
Thank
So
you. It's not
Thursday
tomorrow
night.
night. Tomorrow night, I'm at S&W Sports doing a clinic. So don't go to the Sluicer Center.
Okay.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thursday
night.
Okay, wonderful.
My days are messed up.
Excellent. All right. Any other committee updates? Good? Great. Well, with that, we are on to our next public comment of the evening. So same drill. We have public comment. If you want to come up, say your name and address for the minutes, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening, everyone. Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. The first note I wrote down was back with Mr. Kelly's presentation, and speaking of kind of moving from grades, conventional grades, to this competency discussion. I think what Mr. Cohen said kind of sparked this, but my thought process was, when I get how the competency could be effective in one manner, but the negative side to that is it seems to set a target that is a minimal standard that needs to be achieved. And for some, why go beyond that? If the report card is going to say, yeah, my kid met the competency, how do I know, okay, they hit 70, did they get an 80, did they get a 90? Are they trying to challenge themselves, or did they just meet competency? Great. I don't know how that reflects in a report card. I honestly don't even follow my kids' report cards that much. I ask them how they're doing and where the struggles are, and encourage them to do better. But I do know one of my kids that is challenged in school came home with a 97 honors thing, wanted to show it to me, almost like the refrigerator kind of thing. And I was like, okay, so we are still doing great. And it was the highest in her class, so she was pretty happy with that. So that was just my thought on that competency. I don't know how you reflect that on the report cards coming back home, and how do you encourage the kids to do above that passing grade? And then on the budget subject, not going to get too deep into it, but the discussion went to trying to reduce approximately $100,000. And from following along here, I'm curious if a chart of what has been added new to the operational budget this year would be helpful for taxpayers to understand this. I know food service went up a chunk to cover it being a deficit. The performance contract moved from the maintenance trust into operational expense. And we just talked about how Chromebooks 50,000 went from, instead of taking out technology trust into operational expense, that combo right there is $100,000. So when looking at this from a taxpayer perspective, if we could maybe somehow highlight those bigger changes into the operational budget, it helps you understand the whole picture, or it does for me. I understand it, but if others are trying to look at it. So those are my comments for the evening.
Great, thanks. Lauren, did you guys have any? Okay, thanks. Okay. All right. Other business, old business? Do you have anything you wanted to add? Nope. Anything else from here? No? And I will just say, I know we've talked a lot about competencies and grades, and this has been like an ongoing conversation at like the state level, and it's much bigger, unfortunately, actually, than our district. It feels like it's been going on for several years now.
We just haven't transitioned to how to provide that assessment. I'm not sure what Suzanne is using in her school, but Concord, for example, moved away from, you had to log into Power School to see your 97, but then you had to log into a different app called Teacheries to see your competency. So your point about, how is that going to be articulated to families? There were information nights when Suzanne was talking about the education piece. We are not at that point yet, but it is what we would have to do, to roll it out and figuring out what is the platform that we would use. And there's no ask for that in next year's budget. I mean, we would have to be looking at Aspen, which is our student information system, and just figure out how we want to articulate the competency piece.
And I think I will not speak for the board, but I think my sense is that we have tried to actually balance both having competencies, but also maintaining grades. Because in general, that is what we've done in Hopkinton, and it has seemed to have been a good fit for our students who have gone on to a variety of after high school things.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions that often comes to administrators is, what do colleges, training, post-secondary, what do they think? The good news is a lot of post-high school institutions, they have caught on to the competency piece. You do have to provide them with your profile, like instead of what is your grading scale? In the Common App now, you'll see, are you a competency-based school? What is your competency? Because some are numerical, some are similar to our current standards-based report cards where you might get a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Some are letter grades, so you would have something that would be, meet competency, approaching competency, below competency, exceeds competency. So you do have to provide that, to the college, to the university, the community college. So that is the question that comes to me most often. When you make this switch, is it a disadvantage for my student when they're applying? And I've gone to lots of trainings and Q&A sessions with people from Dartmouth, UNH, Manchester Community College. They understand the competencies.
All right.
May I just bring one other business up?
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, I kind of try to watch the news to see if other school districts show up in the news, what's going on. And I saw a couple recently just about adequacy aid and a deficit with their adequacy aid coming in. And I just wanted to let you know, Hopkinton is fine. We were spot on. We actually got a couple extra dollars that we had budgeted, and so we're good there.
Oh, great.
Just one piece of other business I wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we do have a need for a non-public this evening. So I am looking for a motion to go into non-public, and after following non-public, we will come out and do no further business. But I need a motion for non-public under RSA 91A:3, 2C for reputation.
I'll move for a non-public, but I won't cite the statute.
That's great.
Yes?
I need a second.
Sure, second.
Great.
Not a
Excellent. No discussion. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
And yes. And with that, we're at